What's up? What's up? What's up, YouTube? It's your boy Chris Lee TV back again with another interview. Today I have Marquie Jacobs. Me and Marquie met on Twitter through my CDL Mentorship Monday spaces that I was holding and I host. It's been a while since I've hosted one just because of the injuries and things that I've been through. I've talked about it on my recent videos, but we're going to go ahead and get into this interview. I appreciate you coming on and talking to us, Marquie. Marquie always dropping game in the CDL Mentorship Mondays, always showing up, letting drivers know, you know what I'm saying, do's and don'ts, ins and outs, and how they can better themselves as entrepreneurs. So I had to get him on the channel just to make sure that, you know what I'm saying, we were putting awareness not only just on Twitter, but everywhere else online. YouTube is how I do that through this podcast. So welcome, Marquie. Like I said, I appreciate you coming through and, just tell the audience, you know what I'm saying, tell YouTube, let the people know just a little bit about yourself before we get into it.
Okay, well, I'm over the road truck driver. I've been in the industry about 17 years. I've owned my own trucking company for about 5 years, and I just started running under my own authority. I broke away from the company I was driving for, which was a great company. I just felt like it was time for me to break away and just start building my own business. And so I've been doing that, I believe, about 4 months now.
Right on, right on. And can you tell me how you got, like, what was the whole like mindset about getting into the industry 17 years ago? Like what was, you know what I'm saying? Because it's not as popular, right? Like as I feel like it wasn't as popular probably back then because I feel like a lot of people didn't talk about truck drivers. Like it had to be an aunt or uncle or your grandpa, like somebody family that was in your family that drove a trucks, or you know what I'm saying, somebody close to family that drove a truck. You know, like it was more of a word of mouth industry. So what did that look like? You know what I'm saying? Like how did you even like come to wanting to get into a truck and become a truck driver?
Well, I kind of struggle with working for other people,
Yeah.
and I have a criminal background. I got in trouble when I was young. I was in the streets and stuff like that, and I got a second opportunity at life because I almost ended up spending my life in prison.
Yeah.
And so when I end up getting out of jail and getting another opportunity, I said, well, I'm going to try to figure out another way to try to take care of my family and live. And I was just getting married and everything.
Hmm.
And when I was going out looking for a job, I was making like $230 a week if I was lucky. And
Man.
I was just like, you can't, support a family and children and all that on that low money. And so I just started looking around and trying to figure out ways that I can kind of get into business for myself. So
Hmm.
I watched all those commercials that come on in the middle of the night. You can do
Yes,
this and you
sir.
can do that. I went to
Right.
all the real estate seminars. I bought all the carton sheets and everybody else stuff and signed up for the programs that said if you can just call people and tell them they have this money. So I just spent money on everything. And
Hmm.
back then I wasn't making a lot of money. So when I was spending all that money on everything, that was really hurt. And then I got into some pyramid schemes with some cell phone things like that. And I was
Hmm.
like, it got to be something better out here. So one day I was over my ex-wife's mother and father house, and her father drove trucks.
Yep.
So one day it was close to income tax time, and at that point I was unemployed. I was in between jobs, trying to find something else, and I said, if I get me a car, I know I'll be able to get me a job.
Yeah.
And so when we was over there, I was checking through the mail to see if we had in the mail because we was using their address as a permanent
Hmm.
residence. And so I seen a check stub on the counter, and it was pretty early in January, and I said, "Yo, your mom and dad already got the income tax." And then my ex-wife looked at him and was like, "No, that's his check."
Hmm.
And I was like, "That's his check from
Right.
driving trucks?" And I said, "I got to get my CDL." So the following year, I think I was 28 years old. So I got my first ever driver's license, first ever
Mm.
at 28 years old.
Yeah.
And so I said, you know what? I think I'm gonna get my CDL. And so I had started this job working for this computer company. And so I felt like, well, if I move up into and get to where I can work at a desk and stuff like that, then things will be better for me. So I ended up finally getting a job where I can come in clean. The only things that get dirty was my hands.
Right.
And it was like a big daycare center. You
Hmm.
know, everybody was always at each other. People were lying on each other and having rumors spread around the company. And I mean, it was just like every day it was something. And
Yep.
I was just like, I can't keep doing this. So I do music as well. And so I was passing around a CD with a bunch of beats on it for artists and stuff. And so one of the security guards that worked there, he had got a hold of one of the CDs I was passing around.
Yeah.
And then he said he wanted to buy some beats. And so people tell me they want to buy it all the time. But then when I quote them the price, then that's when I find out who's serious and who's not.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I quoted him the price, I thought he was just gonna get one beat, but he ended up getting all the beats on the CD.
Hmm.
And so the company I was working for, they owed me some money for overtime that I didn't get paid for the 2 previous weeks.
Right.
So when he came to work, he gave me an envelope, and I was like, "What's this?" And he was like, "It was the money for the beats," and it was like $3,000.
Yeah.
And then I turned around and got all the money they owed me on my overtime check, and that was like 2,000. So here I am working a job that I don't like with people I don't like, and now I got
Mhm.
$5,000 in my pocket. I said, you know what? That's it. I'm finna go
Yeah.
get my CDL. So I filled out an application with Stevens Transport,
Really.
and I went through their CDL program,
Yeah.
and I actually got paid to get my CDL, and that was like $50 a day. So I was able to keep all the money that I got from the beats
Mm-hmm.
and the overtime, and
Mm-hmm.
then I was able to get my CDL. So what I did was I paid my rent up for like 4 months, my rent and all my bills for 4 months, and enrolled in CDL school. And I think the program was like a 4 week program. I ended up getting mine in 2 weeks.
Right.
Yeah.
That's funny
So
because I went to Stevens Transport and I did similar things like when I came up, like paying your rent in advance. I think that's a very smart thing to do because rent that's something that's always gonna hit every month. And when you don't gotta worry about that rent check, it frees you up to do like, you know what I'm saying, to not have that monkey on your back, that weight on your shoulders, and you can think a little different. You don't gotta be
yeah,
what do they call it? You know what I'm saying, looking for something fast, for something right now, and you know what I'm saying,
yeah.
give you time to
And at
think.
that time, my rent was like $575 a month, and I had a
Take us
huge
back,
two
man. Take us
bedroom
back.
apartment. Man, a huge 2 bedroom
Take us
apartment.
back.
I was like, shoot, I was thinking about moving back in there now. The way the
Yeah,
rent was looking now.
man, I'm telling you. But I think that's awesome, man. Like I said, it's usually like family members and stuff like that that we'll see. So that's dope that you're able to see that because you know, that was a glance into this industry. And you know, that's I feel like a lot of people might come into the industry by seeing things like that. I've heard people get into other industries that pay, you know what I'm saying, very well by just seeing someone else's check and being like, okay, how do I where do I sign up type of stuff.
Yeah,
So that's very cool that you took that initiative, you know what I'm saying, and had it in the back of your mind, like, I'm gonna get my CDL. It's just like things, how things are lined up for you, you know what I'm saying, with the beats and the overtime. I think that's really dope. Um, so fast forward to now. Um, I think we talked in the past about like leasing programs. You want to shed some light on that real quick? Because I know you had your journey through, you know what I'm saying, leasing a truck and things like that.
yeah. And one thing that I figured out, over 17 years, I've leased 7 trucks.
Hmm.
And I catch a lot of flack, from like some of the truck driving groups that I try to share information with on like Facebook and stuff, because they look at it as, where you failed, at least and over again.
Hmm.
But I'm like, that was a new experience. And then, just like any other industry, it changes over the years. So when the leases
Right.
first came out, yeah, you could say there was a scam because there was a ton of drivers that wasn't able to pay the trucks off. The contracts were kind of one-sided. The company was making all the money while the driver paying off these overly expensive trucks.
Mm-hmm.
But then as the industry grew and the industry changed, so had the leasing. And so I've been on some good leases, I've been on some bad leases, I've been on some okay leases. And having all those different experiences, I found out, you know, what are some things that work and what are some things that don't work. And what I try to get people to understand is that leasing is a business model. And so, in order to be successful, you have to understand the business and the model. And then once you understand how both of those work, then you can kind of put together, what'll work for you and what won't work for you.
Right.
One of the main things I tell people is if you're going to get into a lease, make sure it's a walkaway lease
100%.
because you don't want to be obligated to pay for a truck that you're not necessarily going to own. And if things get bad, like you get 4 weeks with no check, and you still gonna be in the hole another 3 or 4 weeks. Return that truck, become a company driver, get caught back up on your bills, and then try it again. And see,
Yeah.
that's what I was doing. When things got bad and I saw I wasn't gonna get any checks, then I turned the truck in, went back company. When I got things back in order, then I got back into the leasing because I wanted to figure out, how it could actually work. And I also didn't have the credit or the money to be able to go to a dealership and buy the truck. That's the
Mm-hmm.
first thing people always say. You can go to a dealership and you can get a truck with this, that, and the other, and only pay this, that, and the other. Yes, you can if you have your credit and your finances right. And
100%.
those were two things that I struggled with because, one thing people don't understand when you live in a street life is that money comes fast.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you have fast money, you spend fast. And so even though I had gotten out the streets, I still had that street mentality of just burning through money. And so I hadn't gotten, discipline with money yet. I didn't understand credit. I didn't understand finances. I was struggling just to maintain one bank account.
Right.
Now as a business owner, I maintain, I think over 80 or 90 some accounts between my business bank accounts, my personal bank accounts, my credit cards, my credit or accounts for my businesses and everything in between.
Right.
And that's because I'm more organized and more financially disciplined. And so another thing that I found is if you're gonna lease on to a company that pays percentage pay versus
Mm-hmm.
mileage pay, because as the rates go up, then so does your money because
Right.
you're getting paid percentage and not mileage. And there is a big gap between mileage pay and percentage pay because if you're only making like $1.25 a mile, then no matter how much many miles you're gonna run, you're gonna make that same thing. But if you're getting paid a percentage, then you're gonna get a percentage of what that rate pays. I've done a load from from Virginia to North Carolina, cigarette load that paid my truck $2,600 for 260 miles.
Mm-hmm. That's what I was thinking. Like when you do those per mile in that percentage, like you might do less miles and make more in some cases.
Yeah,
Um,
and percentage you definitely will.
yeah.
In mileage pay, you're not, unless they play on a sliding scale. I've been with a company. I think when I was with KLM, they paid on the sliding scale. So like if you did under a certain amount of miles, then you actually got paid more money for short runs than you got paid for long runs.
Right.
And then another thing that I tell drivers that if you're gonna be doing a lease, you need to be committed to the truck because that lease
Mm-hmm.
payment is not gonna stop for any
Right.
reason. And so you can't be going home every 2 weeks, every 3 weeks, and even every 4 weeks. You got to be committed to staying out and keeping the wheels turning because that's how you're gonna be able to make your money. Now,
100%.
one thing that I started doing was I started getting loads that was coming through the house. So
Mm-hmm.
that way I could stop at the house, have me a day or two off, and then jump back on the road and run. And it's not costing me any money.
Right.
So that was one code I cracked as far as the leasing concerned. Another thing I did was I stopped eating in the truck stop 7 days a week. I started buying a lot of lunch meat, a lot of canned goods.
Mm-hmm.
For a period, I was cooking inside the truck. And so I was cutting my meal expenses. I was doing the surveys on the receipts, like in Denny's, to get the
Yeah.
free breakfasts and just whatever I could fill out to get something free. That's what I was doing. You know,
That's how you do it.
you don't get out there and start making a bunch of money and then start spending it up. And you know, before I got into leasing, I was talking to a lot of people that own trucks and lease trucks, and I
Mm-hmm.
talked to a lot of people that failed. I talked to a few people that exceeded, and that was one of the differences that I noticed. You know, right off the bat, that failed. Like as soon as they start making a good amount of money, they start picking up expenses that's
Right.
costing them even more money than they was making. You know, like one guy, he moved into a bigger house.
That
He got his
lifestyle
wife
creep.
a Mercedes Benz. He got
Yeah.
himself a Harley Davidson. He got his daughters a BMW, and he just created this massive bill so that when his truck broke down, now he ended up losing his truck because of all the bills.
Mm-hmm.
Then he turned around losing all the stuff that he spent on. So
Yep.
what I did when I started seeing success in the last truck that I leased, I started cutting a lot of expenses out. You know, I let my truck get repoed, my pickup truck, and I went and got me a cheaper car, and I started working on building my credit and
Mm-hmm.
doing everything I need because I was using the credit cards to kind of cover the maintenance because I was having trouble, you know, just getting money saved up
Right.
because I was finding out that there was a lot of things, even though when you lease a new vehicle that has warranties, there are a lot
Mm-hmm.
of things that the warranty don't cover.
Yep.
And so you need to have cash for the stuff that the warranty don't cover. I had one repair that cost me $27,000. Well, no, yeah, it cost $27,000. Of that 27,000, 25,000 were covered under the warranty.
There you
The
go.
other 2,000 wasn't. So
Right.
I had to foot that out of my pocket. But luckily, my company, they actually loaned me the money
Mm-hmm.
to pay that $2,000. And so what I was able to do was you know keep my money and just use their money to pay for it. But that's because I built a good relationship with them.
Yeah.
And then another thing is two of the most important people that's going to help you be successful on your lease is going to be your dispatcher and your load planner.
Mm-hmm.
Those are going to be key relationships. And so what I did was when I got me a good dispatcher, you know, in any kind of way that I could help, I would. And so, you know, she had like a favorite soda that she liked. So whenever I came into the terminal, I brought her one or two or three cases of
Mm-hmm.
that particular soda. And and then for the holidays like Christmas and stuff like that, I got a Christmas gifts.
Yeah.
The dispatcher I got after her, she was doing even better than the one that I had at first.
Mm.
And shoot, I bought her an iPad the year that I paid my truck off,
Yes, sir.
and she hadn't been able to afford an iPad for like 5 or 6 years. And so just seeing, you know, their needs because they were serving like tons of drivers, but at the same time they was making sure that I always had what I needed. They was booking me on like 4 and 5 loads back to back.
Yeah.
So there was sometimes when I knew what I was doing for like 2 and 3 weeks, and then there was times when they put me on special projects where I was able to like do the work on the same load for like
Mm-hmm.
up to 4 months. I had a load going from
Mm.
Indianapolis to Miami, Florida.
Yeah.
And what I would do, I would pick up the load, a load preloaded trailer in Indianapolis. I would drive it down to Miami, deliver the load, then I would deadhead to Atlanta, drop the trailer in Atlanta, and then I would bobtail from Atlanta to Indianapolis to pick up another preloaded trailer. And I did that for 4 months.
Getting paid good.
And yeah, great, because I was getting paid loaded miles on my deadhead miles.
Yeah. That's how you do
So
it. That's how you build. You
yeah,
gotta build those relationships. Like that's one of the ways you're supposed to do it. You take care of those people who take care of you. A lot of these
yep,
dispatchers, you know what I'm
exactly.
saying, it's hard to uh communicate with them sometimes. And you know what I'm saying, once you can break that barrier down, sometimes you know what I'm saying, you can do it, sometimes you can't. But if you can, it's always worth a shot because the you know what I'm saying, the outcome of that could be greater than what you expected. Like kind of the
Yep,
case that you had.
Yep, and I always say, I always be professional. So
100%.
when you run into those dispatchers that are unreasonable and they not doing what you're saying, don't cuss them out. Just go follow the chain of command. You
Hmm.
talk to their supervisor. If their supervisor not helping, you talk to their supervisor. They're not helping, then you just keep going up the chain of command until you find somebody that can make the changes for you. Because
Yeah.
I've been in those situations where I was just mad and cussed the joker out and got hot and ended up getting fired when they
Hmm.
wasn't doing their job right. And then I've been into a situation where I got multiple dispatchers fired because I followed the chain of command and
Right.
they wasn't doing their job. Like I would deliver my load and have to wait 2 and 3 days for another load, and I'm an owner operator. So those days cost me.
Oh no.
And yeah, exactly. And so when I talked to their bosses and showed them where, I'm always getting to my deliveries early
Hmm.
and I always, delivering pristine service, but then I'm not being followed through with because when I get there early, then I gotta wait for loads and stuff like that.
Right. Yeah.
And so
You don't want that.
they was able to find out that that person wasn't doing the job that they was hired for. And everybody from the janitor on up is all being hired, for a reason. And the only
Hmm.
way they can lose their job is if they're not doing it. And I wasn't trying to get anybody to lose their job. I
Right.
just showed them where I was doing my job. This person
Yeah.
wasn't doing their job.
Yeah.
And all I wanted was a change. I just wanted another dispatcher that
100%.
actually did their job. And so, the more professional you can be and the more relationships you can build, the more successful you will be in your trucking business and in your trucking company.
I agree with that. I definitely agree. What I like about the industry is that like I feel like the owner is always like within the arm's reach away. Like these trucking company owners, is somebody in a building, you know what I'm saying, who can contact the owner, who can give you the email of the owner. It's a lot of them give you their number. Um, I don't feel like, you know what I'm saying, it's always you within the stone's throw of being able to talk
Yeah.
to the owner of these
Yeah,
trucking
they're
companies.
always available,
Yeah.
but I work for a lot of companies where, you wouldn't get to talk to an owner for a million years, and then
Yeah.
the only time you see the owner is on a pre-recorded video that they
Right.
playing, telling you that they're live, but they're not live, you
Hmm.
know. And so yeah, that's another thing I like about the trucking, but all owners don't care about their driver. You got some that do, and some that don't. I
Yep.
work for Trans Am, and that guy, he could care less about his driver because when we came in, he met all the drivers, shook our hand, and told us if it's anything we need, just have a talk with him, have a conversation.
Yeah.
And then when I ran into some issues, I called and had a conversation with him about what was going on with me. And he made a video talking against me
Hmm.
about the issue that I addressed with him. Say I get drivers crying all the time and complaining all this, and I'm like, but I thought you said that we
Right.
could
Right.
come to
Right.
you and we can talk to you, especially when it's an issue where your dispatcher asked me to do them a favor, and I end up losing on the deal, and then it'll end
Hmm.
up costing me money.
Yeah, that ain't right.
And yep, and you the one who got 2,000, 3,000 trucks to worry about. I just got one.
100%. I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
So I wanted to talk about just kind of go off into you said you kind of started the industry with your ex-wife's father, you know what I'm saying, kind of introducing you to it in a type of way. Uh how were you able to like maintain like your family life and trucking life, you know what I'm saying, throughout the years? And what were some of the things that you think um help build like, you know what I'm saying, the relationship? Or do you think trucking hurts your relationship? Like what do you think about like truck drivers and, you know what I'm saying, that family time and trying to
Well,
keep.
I think trucking, it's a very hard industry on families
Mhm.
because when you're not there, you're kind of like a stranger when you come home.
Yeah.
And that's the situation that I ended up in. And when you're not there and people constantly see you all the time and people constantly around you, then they don't treat you with the same love and respect that you would if you was coming in the house every day.
Mhm.
And so the truck driver who's always gone, even though you're making sacrifices and trying to build something for the future for your family is not always viewed as a person that's making sacrifices. And it can quickly turn into you just being a tool that's used, you
Mm-hmm.
know, by other people.
Right.
And that's kind of the situation where I was faced with, because you know your children start disrespecting you, and then you know your wife may not see things the way that you see it, or not be able to understand the things that you trying to explain and build and stuff like that. So it takes a special individual at the home to be able to deal with being with somebody that's gone all the time.
Right.
And I think that, you know, after everything I went through with my divorce and just seeing how my marriage went, I think that an important part of trucking should be married couples or couples in long-term relationships should be getting like counseling, some
Yeah,
form of counseling on a regular basis,
I
so they
agree.
can understand each other.
Yeah.
Because if you understand each other more, then you'll understand what the other person is dealing with.
Right.
And it may, you know, cause you to have more compassion and sympathy towards things that they're
100%.
dealing with. And that's just, you know, that's the experience where I lacked that in my relationship is,
Yeah.
you know, there was no love or understanding for the sacrifices, love, understanding, or appreciation for the sacrifices that I was
Mm-hmm.
making out there, going out there working and being sick and being depressed and going through all the mental things that I was going through.
Right.
Because, you know, being a truck driver is a lot like serving time in jail, because you spend your entire life while you're on the road in this
Alone,
small
man.
box
Yeah, and
and alone.
you alone.
And if you don't find a way to allow your mind to stay open and keep your wheels turning, then you can actually, you know, go crazy and become mentally
Yeah.
unstable. And you know, you see that happening when you see these drivers going out here on the road and making mistakes that cause people get
Mm-hmm.
hurt. Company I was working for at night had a driver go to the terminal that I used to go to all the time, and I was even supposed to be at the terminal, but I ended up taking another load, and he came. They had to fire him because he kept getting tickets and kept messing up,
Right.
and so he begged them not to fire him, and they decided to let him go. He came to the terminal and shot up the terminal.
Man.
Yeah, and so, you know, mental health needs to be um, a big part of trucking, you know,
I
and
agree.
and I think government, you know, the government should step in while they're making all these changes to all these rules and regulations that are making our jobs harder and making it harder to enter into
Mm-hmm.
the industry.
Yeah.
I think they should come in and provide some kind of health service for drivers, because it's not an easy career to be in, and it's not for everybody, you know. And
Yeah,
see,
it's very
fortunately
different.
for me, I just became used to kind of being on my own and being
Right.
alone. So it's actually more comfortable for me to, you know, be doing that and instead of working at an office where I have to constantly be around people all the time.
100%. I definitely understand that. And I appreciate you sharing that, man, because we don't get to talk about that a lot. I guess it's like I don't get to hear it a lot as far as like how you broke that down. Um, I want to say, man, you really good with your words, man. Like the way you communicate, I really appreciate, you know what I'm saying? Like you're very open, bro. I don't mean to call you bro. That's you know what I'm saying? But
Hey,
you're very
we
open.
brothers in this in
Yeah,
trucking
yeah.
and in life, you know.
Yeah, but you're very open, man, and I really appreciate that, and I appreciate that since day one. You know that we got to talk, and you know what I'm saying. That's why I think everybody kind of was able to kind of relate to you right off bat and gravitate, you know what I'm saying, towards you, and you know what I'm saying, just understand that when you spoke, that people, you know what I'm saying, needed to listen. I think you have that that going for you. Zoom is timing us. They gave us an hour to talk. And I know we can talk, you know what I'm saying, for several hours. There's some other things I wanted to talk to you about. You know what I'm saying? We have our little credit text group and things like that. And I know that We talk about entrepreneurship and things like that all the time, but I only have 6 minutes left. So I want to see if we can do a part two, because I know like that's a huge part of what I wanted to talk to you about. But I think what was important was what we talked about today. Like there's nothing more important than, you know what I'm saying, understanding um just different ways that people get into this industry, and actually shedding some light on, you know what I'm saying, like the mental health part, the family part. I think is very important, because I think people look at it from the outside in as just a way to get money. And you don't really get to talk about like how actually lonely it is. People don't really get to hear that it, you know what I'm saying? People refer to it. I can't refer to it as a, you know what I'm saying, a jail cell or prison cell, because I've never been in that situation. But I can understand when you say being locked in that truck and ain't nobody there but you, and you know what I'm saying, you have thoughts and you have people calling you on your phone, asking you for things, bringing drama, bringing whatever going on that's crazy at the house going on, and you're 1,000 miles away and you can't do anything about it. And those thoughts and all that stuff sits with you, musters with you, and you got to go to sleep at night, and you got to wake up and get on the road and drive 10, 11 hours the next day, rain, sleet, hail, snow. So I completely understand where you come from with that stuff. Um, but yeah, if it's anything that we can get in this last 4 minutes and 40 seconds, like I said, I would definitely like to bring you on for a part two. Because like I said, I know that you're a wealth of knowledge and wisdom. And like I said, just really something I appreciate you about you, man.
Yeah, well, my team don't play tomorrow, so I'm free today. So all we gotta do is turn it off and restart it.
Okay, okay.
I'm good to go.
We could probably do it a little earlier. I know you're an early bird, man, and I probably should have thought about that before I started sending you the link, because I know that we usually talk, you know what I'm saying, 8, 9 o'clock in the morning. So if you want to do maybe something like 10:30, I think we could talk about it, you know what I'm saying? But I definitely, like I said, want to talk about the money, finances and credit, and then the entrepreneurship, you know what I'm saying? Like that I feel like that's something that you talk about very well. That you've planned out, mapped out. Like you said, you have a lot of time to think about this stuff. You got your CDL when you said you were 28. I think I got my CDL when I was 29. So
No, I
um,
was 29. I
okay.
got my driver's license when I was
Oh,
28.
okay, got
My
you. Yeah,
first license.
yep. That's when I got my CDL at 29, and then I started at Stevens Transport. I got my CDL for free through the Texas workforce. So I didn't, kind of like you, I didn't have to come out a dime. I didn't come in racked up, but I didn't have a whole lot of weight on my shoulders as far as having to sign that contract and stay with that company for a year. But I did stay and get my experience. And you know what I'm saying? I continued to move up and learn, like you said, through I think I just did my third lease in this industry, 2 with Stevens and 1 at Blair Logistics. It is, you know what I'm saying, it is something you learn from, and you just keep pushing and keep moving. Um, but yeah, if there's anything you want to say to the audience before we wrap this one up, and I look forward to that other interview, man, because it's gonna be a wealth of knowledge. Make sure y'all tune in for that part 2.
Most definitely. I got my CDL from Stevens, but I never actually worked for Stevens
Oh
because
yeah.
I had some issues with their management when I was
Mhm.
going through school. So my first trucking job was actually with Trans Am, which I like to
Yeah.
call Trans Scam,
Yeah,
because they was always scamming you out your chick.
man.
But these companies, they can't legally force you to work for them, under those contracts.
Hmm.
They can have you sign those
Yeah,
contracts,
yeah, yeah.
but it depends on what state you in. If they're able to if they're able to legally honor that contract, because Texas is a right to work state, then you can't be forced into a contract like that. They can
Right.
get you to sign it, but you don't have to work for them. And
Yeah, I know
so
like a
I've
lot of
never had
people,
any lawsuits or anything like
yeah,
that for me
people like
not doing it, because I signed that contract, but I never worked for them before.
yeah. Did they hit you with a bill afterwards? I know a lot of people will say that like, they'll put it on your credit and things like that. I never had the experience, so I
They
can't
can't
talk
they
about it.
can't do that.
Hmm.
They called me and threatened to do that, and I said,
Yeah.
go ahead. I love to get that lawsuit. And when they seen that I knew what I was talking about, they
Right.
never pursued the issue. They left it alone. They stopped calling me, stopped sending me emails. They just left me
Gotcha.
alone.
All right, so I got 1 minute left on this Zoom call. I didn't know Zoom started doing this with one-on-ones. I thought it was just multiple people that they was gonna do it with, but maybe we'll have to upgrade. We'll see what the channel provides if we can get some funding for that. Marquie, I want people to follow you on social media. So I know you have YouTube. I know you have Twitter. I'm not sure if you're on Facebook or whatever you want to share. But go ahead, you know what I'm saying, and drop that and let people know where they can find you.
Okay, well, on my YouTube channel, I have the new channel Marquie Money Talks. That's Marquie Money Talks, and that's where I'm discussing like all the business, the entrepreneur.
Mhm.